Hey everybody, it's Monday. Welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf here with you on this Monday evening. Got a great show for you guys today, so hopefully you stick around for the next hours. We go around the nation for some of the best stories and progressive political commentary you can find on the internet. At least, if you ask me. Anyway, we're going to have some fun. We'll talk about Kirsten Nielsen. So that's one name that I will, funny enough, it's the first time I've actually got her name right. I'd always call her Kirsten Nielsen. Apparently Kirsten, I don't know. But turns out I'm not going to have to figure out how to say that anymore because she's gone. She's out of there. So I've got the stories on that. That's fun. Also a little bit disastrous, given that now... Well, I guess the reason that she's gone is she wasn't evil enough for Donald Trump. So, okay, well, we're going to talk about that, of course, including some of the details of what Trump had wanted her to do that she couldn't. And then we have George Conway going after Donald Trump over that as well. So, fun times. Then we have more mainstream corporate media admitting that, oh, holy crap, Bernie Sanders is now the front runner. That's fun. Beto O'Rourke, or Robert Francis, as I like to call him, as that's because that's his name, actually gets a little bit of credit. I'm going to give him some credit here for saying something about Israel. You're not going to want to miss that because that's very interesting. And then we have a threat against Ilhan Omar. Somebody was arrested. I've got the details on that. It's just another, an example of Trump's rhetoric and the rhetoric of people like Jeanine Pirro and even the Democrats who refuse to stand behind Ilhan Omar, what the impact of that is. So I tell you what. Got a good, a mix of fun, light stories, and a couple of heavy ones. So, strap in. It's going to be a great show. All right. Anyway, before I start, I want to thank everybody for supporting the show. Please like and share the stream. So, do that. That helps out greatly. And also, I want to thank some patrons, patreon.com/TYTNation. I will start with these patrons. Rick, Roy, Dwayne Benziger, Bruce Fisher, Nick D'Agostino, and Jevian Dargan. So thank you to all those people who support us on Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation. I don't know if I have... I'm going to check, actually, to see if I have any more people who are joining channel memberships as well. Let's see. Just gotta wait for it to... Tina Mercurio. So thank you to the newest member there as well on YouTube. You want to become a member on YouTube, hit the join button. Or if you want to become a member on Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation. Members on Patreon get, of course, the full show ad-free whenever you want. So just sign in, click the link. It'll take you to a YouTube video without any ads or interruptions. So I cut out the breaks and everything. So it's real nice if you want to go podcast or something, if you want to take your dog for a walk or whatever. So, and I'm also actually working on a podcast version as well. Just have to wait for Apple to approve it or something. So apparently that process takes a very long time from my experience. So, okay. Anyway, so that said, let's get to Kirsten Nielsen. There we go. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Down goes Kirsten Nielsen. down goes Kirsten Nielsen. Donald Trump's former Department of Homeland Security chief is done. So, oh boy, she is gone. She was actually the Secretary of Homeland Security, but she's gone. She's gone. So here's some of the details. It's actually been reported that on Sunday, Nielsen went to a meeting with President Trump. So now apparently the purpose of that meeting was for Nielsen to try to repair her relationship with Donald Trump. So they had been clashing over some of the policies that he wanted to implement, and we've got more details on that, of course, about how he wanted those implemented and when, and she couldn't do it. And so she's like, yeah, okay, I can't do this, but let's try to work around it, because, look, I want to be horrible to immigrants, I want to be terrible to migrants, but I can't do it because it'd literally be illegal, right? So now she went to that meeting. She did bring her resignation letter. In fact, she had written it beforehand after a previous disastrous meeting. She went there. She didn't expect to use it, but after the meeting went south, that's it. It's over. Done. Not long after that meeting, by the way, and she brought her resignation. He basically forced her to resign. She wanted to put out a statement. He got there first and essentially fired her via tweet. This tweet said, Secretary of Homeland Security Kirsten Nielsen will be leaving her position, and I would like to thank her for her service. And added, I am pleased to announce that Kevin McAleenan, the current U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner, will become acting secretary for DHS.gov, and I have confidence that Kevin will do a great job. Probably not, though, because apparently he's not, from what I've read, not quite as gung-ho about Trump's immigration policies as Nielsen was. And look, we seem to be getting a lot of acting secretaries, a lot of acting heads. Kind of funny. Anyway, now, again, according to CNN, she did not want to leave, but was under pressure from both Donald Trump for her previous failures, as well as from people like John Bolton. And John Bolton apparently would get into scraps with John Kelly when he was still there. John Kelly, of course, was basically the one who was protecting Nielsen's job while she was there. Or, I'm sorry, while he was there. Now, he's gone. He's been gone for a while. And so she was next on the chopping block. So now what happened? What was the reason that they decided to force her out? Well, apparently, Nielsen was not cruel enough to migrants when it came to immigration. According to senior administration officials, Trump had grown increasingly frustrated with the situation at the border, which has seen an influx of migrants from Northern Triangle countries, that's El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala. So now, look, there's a lot of people that are leaving those countries because basically thanks to a lot of U.S. foreign policy and the drug war, etc., and basically us meddling in the region, those countries are pretty unstable. So there's rampant corruption, there's a lot of crime, and there is gang violence, MS-13, etc., operating in those areas. And a lot of people are rightly fleeing those areas and fleeing poverty. And so, as well as the government basically oppressing some of their citizens. So, yeah, these people make that dangerous journey up through Mexico to try to get into the United States and apply for asylum, which is 100% legal, by the way. And they should be able to do so, have their case reviewed, and if they have a good case for asylum, then we should let them in. Donald Trump says absolutely not. In fact, in California on Friday, Trump told border agents that he wanted them to stop letting people cross the border whatsoever. Like, that's it. Like, doesn't matter the situation. We're not letting anyone in. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Now, here's the thing. According to U.S. law, they're allowed to do so. In fact, you have to be physically in the United States in order to apply for asylum or at a port of entry. What Trump would be what wants to do would be against the law. Now, Nielsen, in her resignation letter, said that she believed that the situation was becoming untenable with the president becoming increasingly unhinged about the border crisis and making unreasonable and even impossible requests. Well, if that does not sound like everything we have heard about working with Donald Trump in the past. So, man, let me tell you. Look, this is like what it's like working with Donald Trump. Why won't you just break the law for me? I have something that I want you to do, and I don't care if it's illegal. I want you to do it. Well, now, wait a minute here. It's illegal. It's their ass, right? And so it's not Donald Trump's ass. So he doesn't care. He doesn't care if you get in trouble for doing it. He won't protect you. No, you are there basically to follow his orders, do whatever he wants you to do, and then take the blame for it when it goes badly. That's what working for Donald Trump is like. And we've seen it over and over and over again. And there are people that apparently are smart enough to go, no, I'm not going to take the fall for this one. I will do everything I can to do it without putting myself in legal trouble. And then, of course, there are people that are not that smart. And we've seen that before, Paul Manafort being one of them, Michael Cohen. So there are plenty of people who have also done illegal things in service of Donald Trump when basically he asked them to. And now they are serving, prison sentences. But not Donald Trump, interestingly enough. Now, again, more proof that Trump is basically unhinged and does not care about the law. I mean, again, we heard this back when Rex Tillerson had left. And he's like, the president kept asking me to do crime. I'm not going to do crime. I'm not going to get in trouble for that. No, I'm out of here. And look, as bad as Nielsen is, this does not, her quit. She didn't even quit, really. She got fired. Technically, they pressured her to resign. So if anybody wants to give Nielsen a pass, you just have to remember this. She wanted to do those things. She wanted to, but wasn't willing to break the law in order to do it. So, now the thing about that is, as well, is that her leaving basically opens the door for people who are willing to break the law. And that's not a good thing. And this basically, and I'm saying this all over the place, this basically empowers Stephen Miller, who is consolidating power when it comes to immigration. He is basically now in full control of the Trump immigration policy going forward. As if he wasn't before, but now he definitely is in control, and so expect it to get even worse. In fact, a Republican Senate aide told Axios that, quote, Nielsen leaving will make conservatives who are getting fed up with DHS happy. And again, why were they fed up? Because Nielsen wasn't cruel enough. And not for lack of trying, by the way. After all, what's the thing that we think about when we hear the word Kirsten Nielsen, or the name Kirsten Nielsen? We think baby cages, baby jails. So no matter who comes after her and what kind of stories she tries to tell, now that she's not in the administration, just remember, baby jails, family separation, lying about separating mothers from their children. These families, they were split apart. And a lot of them, they're not going to be able to get back together. There are kids that cannot find their parents. Hundreds, maybe thousands of them that can no longer locate their families. They are lost. And it is the fault of our immigration system. Imagine being in their shoes, the parents, right? The heartbreak of possibly never seeing your kids again. That is a waking nightmare that you cannot escape from. That's what Kirsten Nielsen has done. And if that was not enough for the cruelty of Donald J. Trump and the Republican Party. And now it really makes you wonder, whoever is able to take over, and I'm not saying someone will be able to take over or that it will be an easy road, but it does make you wonder if they were able to get the kind of pick that they want and do the policies they want, how far would they go to basically enforce the policy of trying to keep America white? Because let's be honest, that's what it's really about. Okay. So let's get into some of the details about what Trump wanted Nielsen to do. So that should be fun. All right. No, that was wrong. Okay. So now that Kirsten Nielsen is done at DHS, more information has come out about the contentious relationship she had with Trump while he was at the White House. And by the way, that's Homeland Security, okay? Not the Department of Health and Human Services. Just want to be clear on that. Now, in a report following the heels of Nielsen's resignation, the New York Times had a detailed report of how Trump would call Nielsen at home early in the morning in order to demand that she take action to stop migrants from entering the country. So just imagine working for somebody who decides to call you early in the morning when you're at home, before you even go to work. Like, hey, have you stopped all migrants from coming into the country yet? No, dude, it's 6 in the morning. What are you doing calling me? Like, I'm not even at work yet. I'll work on it later. Come on. Do you honestly think that that's not what happened? Guys usually up, at 3 in the morning, sometimes hate tweeting, or and especially probably around 6 in the morning, because that's when he starts his day on Twitter, and starts out his executive time. Now, as far as the migrants are concerned, remember, these are people that are seeking asylum here in the United States because they are running for their lives. It is 100% legal to seek asylum by entering the United States. You either have to be physically in the United States or at a port of entry, right? Now, Trump, he didn't like that. In fact, he hates migrants. He doesn't like immigrants. I mean, as long as they're brown, right? Now, if you're a white immigrant, well, then Donald Trump thinks you're great. Like, oh, yeah, come on over. Yeah, like Russian pregnant women? No, come on over, have your kids, and become American citizens. Sure, look, that's kind of what I did with Melania Trump, right? So, but if you're brown or black or some sort of minority, then no, he's not at all interested in you, right? And especially if you don't have money. If you have money, maybe you could change your mind, or maybe he'll change his mind. But anyway, he hates him so much that, according to the Times, he would go even so far to pressure Nielsen to take measures that were illegal, including blocking all migrants from seeking asylum. Now, realistically, how would you actually do that? You would have to physically prevent them from entering into the United States or a port of entry. Now, we have seen that before with border officials launching tear gas into basically crowds of migrants. Donald Trump looked at that and said, yes, I want more of that. I want you to do more. I want you to get real tough on these migrants so that they go home. That's what's going on here. That's what he wants more of. And unfortunately for Nielsen, she's like, that's kind of against the law. I mean, we got a lot of flack for that. The immigration, like courts are striking down our immigration stuff. If we do anything like that, it'll be illegal. And we're going to get in trouble for it. And by we're, I mean me. Probably not you, because you're sitting president. And for some reason, we have an attorney general now that doesn't believe in indicting a sitting president, no matter how much crime he does. So there's that. Now, again, not only is that massively illegal, but it's also completely heartless. I mean, I know, right? The bleeding heart liberal actually caring about other people who are not Americans. Look, I also know that there are issues at the border, right? Look, the worst case scenarios, look, we have a lot of people coming in that we might not have the resources to be able to take care of. And okay, I understand that, right? And I understand that we need some sort of system in there to be able to take care of people, and we need resources being sent to the border. We need to expedite things like, immigration cases and asylum cases. You don't do that by blocking people from entry. You don't do that by building walls or barriers and things like that. No, what you have to do, I think, is, again, send more aid and resources, build shelters, or send immigration judges so that they can quickly process claims of asylum, things like that. That'd be great. Now, you also have issues of human trafficking, right? And you also have issues of not enough shelter, but those are things that can be remedied. And I understand that there are a lot of migrants that are coming at a fairly fast rate, and there is kind of, I wouldn't say an emergency, but there are certain issues, and we need to do something about it, right? Now, that something is not keeping old people out. That's not what we do as a country, right? And we actually need to do something to solve these problems. And actually, if we really wanted to solve the root of the problem, we would actually end our drug war overseas. Or I'm saying not overseas, but in South America and Central America. That would help out a lot. Or increase aid. President Trump says, no more aid. In fact, we're going to cut off aid unless you're able to stop the migrants. It's kind of really counterproductive. But again, Donald Trump's not a smart person. He doesn't think about this, right? Instead, he says, I want to break the rule of law. I thought he was the law and order president. No, he's not the law and order president. He's I'm going to break the laws if it suits me president. Or at least I'm going to order you to break the laws, right? And Nielsen's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to break the law for you. Make no mistake, she probably wanted to, but at the same time did not want to get in trouble. Because Trump's motif is, the whole theme of Trump is, I'm going to order you to do something illegal that helps me but doesn't help you at all. And if you're stupid enough to follow it and then get caught, well, then I don't care about you. That's kind of how it works here. So now, on that, she repeatedly noted that the limitations imposed on her by her department by federal laws, court settlements, and international obligations. But rather than placating the president, Nielsen's attempts at explaining why she could not simply shut down the asylum process would only further stoke the flames of the U.S. leader's fury, according to the Times. You know why? He doesn't like hearing the word no. He doesn't think that U.S. law should apply to him or his decisions. You know who else thinks that? Dictators. People who don't care about rule of law, who don't care about the Constitution. Donald Trump wants to be a dictator because that's what he is. And if you don't do what he tells you, he's going to get angry at you, throw a fit, and eventually fire you, which is exactly what happened. According to the Times, tensions between the DHS chief and the president came to a head in the spring of 2018 after Nielsen hesitated to sign a memo enforcing Trump's zero-tolerance policy. Now, that is the separation of children at the border, right? Now, that would have resulted in 2,500 children being separated from their parents at the border. Now, when she refused to sign that, the president berated her repeatedly in front of her peers during a cabinet meeting, leading her to draft a resignation letter. Before submitting it, Nielsen reconsidered and decided to stay. Why did she want to stay? Well, why would anybody want to stay? Power. It's always about power. And look, again, she wanted to stay. She wanted to get back on his good side and had requested a meeting. That was the meeting, of course, in which she was ultimately fired. They wrote from the New York Times, while Nielsen came prepared with a list of ways to improve her relationship with the president, Trump was determined to ask for a resignation. And after that meeting, she submitted it, citing according to the New York Times, citing 3 people familiar with the meeting. In her resignation letter, Nielsen wrote of how, for more than 2 years of service beginning during the presidential transition, she had worked tirelessly to advance the goals and missions of the department. And of course, the only thing that stopped her is that if she had implemented those illegal policies, it would have been her ass and not Trump's. And yet still, she would try to find a way to do a lot of what Trump wanted when it came to immigration. Look, a lot of former staffers for President Trump, former aides, people that are close, they tried and failed to find that line. Why? Because there is no line. What Donald Trump asked for is simply illegal in a lot of circumstances. He is asking for things that we should not be doing. And that should really tell you something. And then, of course, gets mad at you when you're not able to break the law for him. That's who he is. He is a serial criminal, a lawbreaker, and someone who never takes responsibility for his own actions. That is who Donald Trump is. And for the people that work for him, that are doing his bidding, especially when it comes to the immigration, just know that even though you think you're trying your best in order to implement his policies, just know that no policy against immigrants is too evil for Donald Trump. And so there will come a day where he will ask you to do something illegal, and you've got to make the choice whether or not you're going to do that. Okay. All right. Moving on. One more before the break. Okay. So George Conway is a frequent Trump critic. Let me try that again. So George Conway is a frequent Trump critic on Twitter, and he has another tweet following the supposed resignation of Kirsten Nielsen from DHS. Now, I say supposed resignation because in reality she was pressured to resign and is sort of fired via tweet, right? Now, she calls it a resignation, but again, there was all that pressure from John Bolton and President Trump himself because she just wasn't able to be as cruel on immigration as he'd wanted. Not for her lack of trying. Now, George Conway, who is a conservative lawyer and husband of White House counselor Kellyanne Conway, again, frequent critic of the president, too much coffee today, decided to tweet about this pattern of ordering people to do illegal things and then, of course, leading to them either getting in trouble with the law or having to quit or be fired from their position. So now, Conway specifically pointed to the New York Times report that said that Trump blew up at Nielsen when she warned him about how some of the actions that he demanded of her were illegal. Here's the tweet. The president berated Ms. Nielsen regularly to demand that she take actions that included things that were clearly illegal. She repeatedly noted the limitations imposed by federal law that only infuriated Mr. Trump further. And then this is another tweet by Julie Davis that added on to that. Trump became increasingly angry, believing that Nielsen wasn't doing enough to control the border, and demanded that she do more, including things that were not legal or even possible, like blocking migrants from claiming asylum. So that, of course, is the another part of the article that he was referencing. Now, Conway is an attorney, so he kind of knows a little bit. He would know that this is actually illegal. And so pointing that out, some of the policies like child separation, etc., is not unheard of, right? Except that I mentioned before, his wife works in the Trump administration and has defended Trump's immigration policies. So, look, that's going to lead to an awkward dinner, right? Now, Conway also referred to an article in Axios that reported how Trump's former White House counsel Don McGahn had confided to a group of Republicans that the president had frequently yelled at him for not doing basically what Trump wanted him to do because it would again be illegal. Conway assumed those heated confrontations concerning McGahn's warnings to Trump not to break the law. Now, here's his tweet. Quote, good lawyers tell their clients not to do things that are illegal, or in this case, potentially impeachable. Bad clients, especially very dumb ones, get really mad at those lawyers. It's not like he's wrong. Again, Donald Trump's not a smart person. He's not a very stable genius. He demands that you do things for him that are illegal. And when you don't do it, he yells at you. He fires you. We have seen this movie before. And here's George Conway saying, I rewinded the tape so you can watch it again. But this is exactly what happens. And so, yes, he is a very dumb person that he's going to get mad at you. And I think eventually that's going to go and blow back at his in his face. Well, let's hope. Okay. So, I'm going to take a break. We'll come back. We got more stories here, including Morning Joe on Bernie Sanders. That's an interesting segment. So you're not going to want to miss that. Also, we have a frozen... Oh, here we go. Beto O'Rourke on Israel. He's going to get some credit here from me, and that is rare. And then the disastrous Ilhan Omar story. So, again, you're not going to want to miss any of that. Send your super chats. I'll read them, as well as comments after the break. Please remember to like and share the stream. We'll be back in a couple minutes. So stay right here around the nation. Welcome back to the show. Run the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Okay, so we got some great member comments here from the YouTube chat. L. Well says, people keep asking where the bottom is in this administration. I keep saying Trump. His followers and the Republicans have no bottom. There's no depth they won't sink to. It's just like Cenk Uygur says. There's no bottom to that barrel. So you're absolutely right. Just when you think they hit the bottom and they're the worst kind of people, they surprise you by being even worse. So at this point, there was a time where I was surprised by the depths that the Republicans could go. Not anymore. I am no longer surprised. In fact, I expect the complete worst out of Republicans. So, and that it shouldn't be a surprise. Okay. Anyway, another comment here. This time from Sarge Tech, who just notes that Trump, Bibi, and Putin are the three amigos. Though I don't think I want to watch a movie of them. Just saying. And finally, Actus Magus says, Trump needs to go, flat out, and then he needs to be jailed for every last law he's broken in and out of office. Also strip him of his family of all his little wealth in fines and back taxes. That's good stuff. Oh, that sounds great. Yes, tax them. And use that money to help immigrant families. Oh, I love it. It's so good. Okay. Anyway. And then I'm seeing things in the chat here having to do with species 8472. The weak will perish. Just to let you know. Okay. Anyway. Let's get back to the show, guys. All right. And here, okay, back to this. Oops. Here we go. All right. So a very strange thing happened on cable news. They're actually starting to cover Senator Bernie Sanders. In fact, MSNBC's Morning Joe has finally admitted that Senator Sanders is now the Democratic frontrunner and that he could beat Donald Trump. Now, I would normally show you a video here, but apparently NBC Universal has been incredibly aggressive in their takedowns of copyrighted content. So I can't actually show you, but I will read the quote here from that show that actually happened, I believe, on Thursday or Friday. Now, Joe Scarborough said, Bernie Sanders almost beat Hillary Clinton against all odds in Iowa last time, then he destroyed her in New Hampshire. They have moved up the California primary in an attempt to possibly help Kamala Harris. Possibly. But you have a situation with Bernie Sanders, and we've seen the money, where the media always underestimates Bernie Sanders. Always. They did in 2016. They have in 2020. So this is actually a stark reminder that we're making the same mistake again in 2020. Holy crap. Here you have establishment Morning Joe saying, you know what? I think we messed up. We as in the media ecosystem, right? MSNBC. Because here we go. We are underestimating Bernie Sanders once again. And see what happened last time? Again, he finished second incredibly strongly behind Hillary Clinton, the most well-known person running in that race. The highest name recognition, the entire establishment, both media complex as well as establishment politicians lining up behind Hillary Clinton. And nonetheless, he made up a 60-point gap in the polls. By the time that, it got around to the New York primary, etc., it was a little too late because he had lost, a lot of the southern states where, the black vote was incredibly important. But nonetheless, he made up a lot of ground and challenged Hillary Clinton. So it's really interesting to hear this admission from Morning Joe. And see, here's the thing why, right? The reason why. Joe Scarborough is somebody that I don't agree with a lot. He used to be a Republican, now he's an independent, whatever, right? But he's also a member of the establishment. So now he might balk at that and be like, I'm not a member of the establishment. What are you talking about? I had on Donald Trump all the time back in 2016. Yes, please remind us of that. How you were buddy-buddy with Donald Trump. But no, look, he is what Washington watches. Why do you think he's got 3 hours of show every day in the morning? They all tune in to watch him. This is where Washington gets their opinion, right? So now, for him to go, watch out, Bernie Sanders is not coming. Bernie Sanders is already here. Winter is here, right? Now winter is coming. It's here. Uh-oh. And he's here with a gigantic war chest, right? Over 1 million volunteers. You have great polling in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Iowa, a lot of these early bellwether states. He's going all over the country, spreading his message. He's going on Fox News and doing a town hall. None of the other candidates are doing that. And he's doing that because even though he says, look, I know Fox News is a propaganda arm of the Republican Party, but maybe there will be people in that audience that I will be able to reach with my message. Because this is not a message that is specifically made just for Democrats. It's actually made for everybody who is struggling, right? Those of you who are in the middle class, those of you who are in the working class, working poor. So that's who that's who my message is for. It's for the 99%, not the 1%. So, look, that's why it's important, right? Now, Bernie Sanders, speaking of the polls, new polls just dropped. In Massachusetts, he's beating Elizabeth Warren in her home state. She's third, Biden is second, and he's at 29%. And in a field where there's over 30 people running, that is amazing. So, now, and of course, the reaction from the establishment is like, oh, wow. Oh my God, I thought Bernie was going to fizzle out, but it appears that he's actually sticking in the race and he's kicking everyone's ass when it comes to fundraising. Yes, I showed you that video the other day of Jake Tapper grudgingly admitting that Sanders is a front runner, that he's got an incredibly strong likelihood of becoming the Democratic nominee. But now Joe is going to talk about that as well. He's going to talk about his path to victory. Quote, he wins Iowa. He wins New Hampshire. He's got the momentum in California. You tell me who else other than Joe Biden is going to be able to keep pace with this guy. Well, nobody. And Joe Biden has his own issues. Joe Biden, in every single primary, has came into it strong, got a lot of donations from big corporate donors, but then falls apart. His campaign basically implodes. And right now, with all the Me Too allegations, the inappropriate touching, his campaign is imploding even before it starts. So I don't even think he'll be able to keep up with Bernie Sanders. And who does that leave? Mayor Pete Buttigieg? Or Beto O'Rourke? Time will tell, man. Maybe Kamala Harris, who actually, I think she raised somewhere around $12 million. And a lot of it's from small donors. So, look, there's more here. MSNBC analyst Mike Barnicle agreed that Sanders could secure the nomination by March of next year. Now, there's one person on the panel that disagreed. That's Donnie Deutsch, who made the point, oh, no, if you go against Donald Trump, I mean, look, Bernie Sanders, he hasn't been vetted yet, and the Republican Party is going to come out strong because he's a socialist. Well, Joe Scarborough said, actually, I completely disagree. And I disagree because a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump say that they would have voted for Bernie Sanders. Politics is a strange thing. Bobby Kennedy's supporters went to vote for George Wallace. A lot of Trump voters would be more interested in Bernie Sanders than others. A lot of Trump voters would be more interested in Bernie Sanders. So, uh-oh. Now, is that because Bernie Sanders is the champion of white males? you may not believe the message because it's coming from a white male, but no, in reality, just look at the polls, right? Bernie Sanders does better with young people of color than he does with white men. I'm serious. So now what Scarborough is referring to, I believe, is that he's talking about the Obama-Trump voter. Now, who is that, right? Those are the people that in 2008, 2012 voted for President Barack Obama, right? Hope and change. We're going to be more progressive because, believe it or not, he did say progressive things when he was campaigning, and then, of course, governed as a center-right candidate or center-right president. But a lot of these people were like, okay, I like hope, I like change. I want things to be different than George W. Bush and the status quo. Okay, let's do something different. Let's vote for Barack Obama. They were completely disappointed in Obama, or at the same point, they looked at Hillary Clinton and were like, no, I'm not going to go with that. That is the same old system. That is the same old establishment. I want something different. I want change. Let's go. Let's change, right? Now, Trump did offer change, but he offered change in a way that was disastrous change. Yes, change is change, but oh boy. So now, look, I also know that a lot of people voted for Trump because of racial anxiety. Let's not ignore that, right? But I'm not talking about those people. Those are not the people that Bernie Sanders reaches. He does not reach racist people, okay? People that are too worried about brown and black people, becoming a majority in the country. No, it's the people that are getting crushed by the status quo. And they wanted something different. That's who Bernie Sanders appeals to. Sanders offers hope of a different, better system. Sanders has proposed things that are really popular in the mainstream. Medicare for all polls at 70%. Free college also polls at 70%. Things like a higher $15 minimum wage, a living wage for all Americans. Child care, right? Free child care. All these different great policies, environmental policies, the Green New Deal, he has signed on to that, and that has over 80% approval with the American public. So, come on, man. That's why people like Bernie Sanders. That's why people are volunteering for him. That's why people are donating to him. Because they want these policies, and they care about good policy. And so, he's going to get those votes. And that's not something that Beto or Buttigieg can count on, but Bernie can. And because of that and the fundraising, you can see it all over. When these pundits on cable television are now saying, well, Bernie Sanders, it looks like he's the front runner. It's because the establishment has just been shook. And the establishment, of course, respects money and money only. But with Bernie Sanders raising so much money and polling so well, they're shook. And you know what? It's hard to dismiss him. It's hard for them to dismiss him this time. Okay. All right. Moving on. So Beto O'Rourke, or what I like to refer to him by his name, Robert Francis O'Rourke, has actually done something surprising that has earned him a little bit of credit. He has actually slammed Israel and, more importantly, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, this was during a stump speech in Iowa, and I don't know if O'Rourke was actually literally standing on a stump at this point, but nonetheless, a voter had asked him to comment on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So this is what he said. He said that Netanyahu is somebody who, in previous elections, warned that Arabs were coming to the polls. It's racism. He also, and this is in reference, of course, to a warning about droves of Arabs that Netanyahu had told his supporters in 2015 to get them out of the polls. So that's basically akin to Trump saying the Muslims are coming, literally, or black people are coming, or Hispanics are coming. So, you need to get to the polls because you got the people that are against us that are coming to the polls. It's classic us versus them mentality, right? So now his criticism continues, and yes, that is absolutely racist, and it's good of O'Rourke to point that out. He also said, this is somebody who now no longer subscribes to a two-state solution and has vowed to annex the West Bank, which will make peace in the long term impossible. This is someone who joined far-right parties who are inherently racist in their speech and the way that they want to treat their fellow human beings in that part of the world. So, dang. That's actually pretty strong criticism from Beto O'Rourke. So, I actually am going to give him credit for that because it's actually a fairly strong statement. Now, that said, he also mentioned in that speech, well, the most important relationship the United States has is its relationship with Israel. It's the most important on the planet. No, it's not. No, I disagree with that. But anyway, now, the thing is that Netanyahu is, look, I've been a critic of him. I'm a critic of the right-wing government of Israel. So I'm actually glad now that Democrats are starting to speak out. So this is, I think, partly has to do with Ilhan Omar. So she gets a lot of credit for going after AIPAC and for, saying that, hey, I don't have to agree with Israel's stances on everything. I don't have to take their side on everything. And I think, especially since younger people, especially a lot of younger Jewish people, are saying, look, I don't agree with what the right-wing government of Israel is doing, especially when it comes to Palestine and the Gaza Strip, etc. I don't agree with that, and maybe the party shouldn't completely back Israel 100% of the time when they're doing human rights abuses. And I think that's a fair position to have, and it shows really a generational divide. Older Americans, older Jewish Americans are more right-wing on that issue, whereas younger people are obviously more progressive on this. So now, more stuff that Netanyahu has been doing that's been upsetting a lot of people. He vowed over the weekend to annex Jewish settlements in the West Bank if voters return him to power. He's got an election this week. He's also sought to form a coalition with the far-right Otzma Yehudit Party. His views have been attacked both as reprehensible by the American Jewish Committee and hateful and extremist by the Anti-Defamation League. Dang. Now, he also says, we must be able to transcend his current leadership to make sure that the alliance between our two countries is strong, that we continue to push for and settle for nothing less than a two-state solution, because that is the best opportunity for peace for the people of Israel and the people of Palestine. It is the best opportunity for the full human rights of everyone who is living in that region. Great. Again, I'm actually happy that we're able to have this conversation. This is a much-needed discussion, and props to him for actually being open to having that discussion, especially with what happened just recently to Ilhan Omar, where she challenged AIPAC, which is the lobbying arm of the Israeli government, and was immediately branded anti-Semitic. So, and I think that's a bold position to take. Because right now, look, the reason that this is important is a good springboard for an actual conversation on this is that Palestinians are living in an open-air prison, right? They're getting shot at the border. There are serious human rights abuses led by the right-wing government. And so we shouldn't be ignoring that. Our politicians should not be ignoring that. And right now, we're still giving Israel billions of dollars in aid, and we're calling them an ally in the region. You're not an ally if you're trying to stoke war with Iran. You're not an ally if you're illegally seizing land from an oppressed minority. You're not an ally if you don't give people basic human rights because of their religion or because of where they're born. So credit where credit is due for speaking out on a subject which is really, really important and advocating for a two-state solution. Okay. One more story here. Well, it's finally happened. A Trump supporter has been arrested for threatening the life of Representative Ilhan Omar. Now, Yahoo News is identifying this man as Patrick W. Carliano, 55 years old, and he was arrested on Friday morning and charged by criminal complaint with threatening to assault and murder Omar. So now, let me give you the details here. On March 21st, a staff member in Omar's office had received a phone call around 12:20 p.m. During the call, an individual, eventually identified as Carliano, allegedly said to the staff member, quote, "Do you work for the Muslim Brotherhood? Why are you working for her? She's an expletive terrorist. I'll put a bullet in her skull." Muslim Brotherhood. I wonder where anybody would get the idea that Ilhan Omar is working for a secret Muslim organization while in Congress. I wonder.
Your party is not anti-Israel. She is. Think about this. She's not getting this anti-Israel sentiment doctrine from the Democrat Party. So if it's not rooted in the party, where is she getting it from? Think about it. Omar wears a hijab, which according to the Quran 33:59 tells women to cover so they won't get molested. Is her adherence to this Islamic doctrine indicative of her adherence to Sharia law, which in itself is antithetical to the United States Constitution?
She wears a hijab, so she can't be an American. She must be working for Muslims, the Muslim Brotherhood. Man, her voice is like nails on a chalkboard. I know, right? So, look, that's the video that was too much for Fox News. But, look, it had its intended effect. Stirred up people who are insanely Islamophobic against her. And look, Jeanine Pirro wasn't the only one. Donald Trump attacked all Muslims, saying once before at a rally, we have a problem. It's called the Muslims. I mean, how much clearer can you be? Oh, but Jeff, what if it's a leftist, a secret leftist that attacked Omar? That makes no sense at all. It would be completely ridiculous, but I know there are people out there that will immediately come up with that sort of conspiracy theory to try to deflect blame against away from Donald Trump. But no, this was Trump inspired. In fact, Carliano told the agents that he is both a patriot and a lover of Donald Trump and hates radical Muslims in government. He said, "If our forefathers were still alive, they'd put a bullet in her head." Really? Really? You know, those same founders, by the way, flawed as they were, they had no quarrel with the Muslim nations. In fact, they said in the Treaty of Tripoli, "The government of the United States of America has in itself no character of enmity against the laws, religion, or tranquility of the Muslims," also known as Muslimin. Thomas Jefferson had a Quran. You know what? The Founding Fathers would actually have more issues with Omar being a woman of color than a Muslim. Just saying. This guy also told agents that Omar supported Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood, and that her election to Congress was illegitimate, without any proof. But hey, who needs proof anyway? When you can just come up with radical conspiracies you probably heard on InfoWars. I mean, then again, these people don't operate in the real world of facts. He was threatening to murder a U.S. Congresswoman because of what he heard on these different various right-wing outlets, and for the President of the United States. And they found guns in his house. He could have done this. But this is what happens when you constantly demagogue a minority group, whether it be Muslims, Jews, Mexicans, etc. And the way that this is done is it's called stochastic terrorism. When you call people the enemy, you demagogue and say, oh, we've got to do something. Muslims are coming. They're here. They're going to create Sharia law. And they're having a dual allegiance to the Muslim Brotherhood. We got to do something about it. If they're against America, they're going to destroy our way of life. Well, what do you think is going to happen? Somebody's going to actually do something. And that's what this is. And they're going to try to do something. So, look, where are the Democrats on this, by the way? Well, AOC is there, of course. She said that basically Jeanine Pirro, that clip, was to blame. She said, understand when Jeanine Pirro goes on Fox and rallies people to think that hijabs are threatening. It leads to this. Folks who imply we're bad for politics, the party, the country, etc., have no idea the threats we deal with because of that kind of language. Talk policy, not personal. So there is AOC. But what about the other Democrats? I haven't really heard anything from them. These and the ones that I'm really talking about are the people who voted to condemn Omar's remarks against AIPAC, right? Now, AIPAC is a lobbyist group, and she said lobbyist groups tend to influence politicians with money. Well, that's the whole point of a lobbyist group, is to influence politicians to vote your way on a policy or go towards a certain ideology, right? So in this case, it's to continue supporting the right-wing government of Israel. But everybody in the Democratic Party, not everybody, but a lot of these older entrenched politicians, well, they said, oh my God, that's anti-Semitic. Chuck Schumer, who spoke at AIPAC. You have, Nancy Pelosi. A lot of these older, supporters of the right-wing government of Israel came out and said, that is horribly anti-Semitic. We will condemn you. And now, of course, later on, it didn't actually condemn Omar by name. It was a general condemnation of hate. But are these Democrats coming out there and saying, we're sorry about this, that we attacked Omar as well? I mean, look, they didn't defend her when she was being viciously attacked by the right wing over supposed anti-Semitic comments, which weren't at all. No, they joined in the attack. They attacked her. And of course, the right wing has this fake outrage, like, oh, how dare you be anti-Semitic? When in reality, a lot of people on the right that are virulently anti-Semitic. And they really only support Israel because it fits into their end times narrative. And AIPAC, of course, doesn't represent all Jewish people. It just really represents the right wing. But this is what happens when you smear and fearmonger against Muslims. Now, thank goodness this dude was dumb enough to leave his name and number when he called in those threats, so that cops and officials, law enforcement was able to find him. But others might be a little smarter. Again, this wasn't the only threat Omar has faced. Last week, Omar was scheduled to speak at a Los Angeles banquet for the Council of American Islamic Relations, that is a Muslim civil rights group. Prior to the event, however, an unnamed woman left a voicemail at the Hilton where it was to be held. This voicemail said, quote, "What would you do if I told you your hotel was going to be bombed? That is exactly what's going to happen if you allow the likes of Ilhan Omar into your hotel. She is a danger to American society and your hotel. You are not to allow her foot into there. If you value your own safety, do not allow her in there. Cancel the event." Well, I mean, she's such a danger to America and to your hotel because I will bomb the hotel. That's what they're saying. No, it would appear that you are the danger to the hotel. If you are making threats, you are a danger to America when you are making threats against a congresswoman for being a Muslim. I mean, jeez, man. A month before that, the FBI arrested Coast Guard Lieutenant Christopher Hassan in Maryland. Now, he's a white nationalist, and he had been stockpiling weapons and preparing the hit list. That included a lot of prominent Democrats. Elizabeth Warren, also CNN's Don Lemon, and guess whose name was also there? Ilhan Omar. You know what? We do have a problem here in the United States. It's called right-wing terrorism. And you know what? We need to do something about it. Okay. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Thank you for supporting the show. Patreon.com/TYT Nation. Sign up. Become a member. Support the show. Need your help more than ever as we continue into the new year. Or actually into the summer, as primary season is starting to heat up. So, fun times for everybody. Okay, thank you, everybody. Tune in tomorrow, right here, same time, same place, 5 p.m. Eastern, and we'll see you tomorrow. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. Love you guys. TYT's next.